All right, strap in, everyone. We're going deep today, like really deep. We're talking animal crimes.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dark side, but honestly, totally fascinating.
So, what are we working with, source-wise?
Okay, so we've got these guidelines from the Metropolitan Police, right?
Okay.
Plus some pretty wild stuff from the Crime Museum. And of course, we went deep into Wikipedia's cruelty to animals
Oh,
page.
wow, Wikipedia. You can always count on that rabbit hole.
No kidding. So I'm guessing you're here because something about this topic, got you hooked.
Definitely. Always been interested in, well, true crime in general.
Right, right. But maybe it's more the animals
Oh,
themselves.
for sure. I'm an animal lover. Although, honestly, I think I'm mostly here because, like, what counts as a crime against an animal?
Yeah.
Like, where's the line?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about too.
I mean, isn't it more than just, like, hitting a pet or something?
Totally. And that's what's kind of crazy. Even the Metropolitan Police, right? They point out that just having your dog, like, out of control in public, that's an offense.
Oh, really? Like what?
Say it's, I don't know, threatening someone, even if it doesn't actually bite.
Huh. Okay, that's interesting.
So it's less about, like, intentional abuse and more about preventing harm, even if it's an accident.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. It's like
Yeah.
responsibility. You're responsible for your pet's actions, basically.
Exactly. But then you go down the Wikipedia rabbit hole and things get philosophical.
Oh, no, here we go.
Right, like they start talking about viewpoints, like is it about the animal suffering? Do they have rights? Or is it all like cold, hard logic?
Like a cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah, that's the utilitarian view, I think.
That's kind of a bleak way to look at it, but I guess it makes sense in some contexts.
See, and that's where it got really interesting for me because, okay, dog out of control, I get it. But then Wikipedia mentions the Crime Museum, and they've got serial killers linked to animal crimes.
Oh, hold on. Woo.
Dahmer, Bundy, like those guys.
No way. I mean, it makes sense in a really messed up way, I guess.
Right. And they're saying that a lot of research, at least according to Wikipedia, points to animal cruelty being a red flag for, criminal psychology.
So it's like, if you're cruel to animals, you might be more likely to hurt people, too.
Well, it's not quite that straightforward. I mean, it's not a guarantee or anything.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's like there might be something deeper going on.
Like something in their personality that leads to both.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are those root causes?
Makes you think.
It does. Like, suddenly those Metropolitan Police guidelines about, reporting a threatening dog, they take on a whole new meaning.
Right. It's not just about, like, bites anymore.
It's like maybe recognizing a pattern, something that could escalate.
That's pretty intense when you think about it that way.
It is. And then you add in the sheer scale of it all. And
Wait, scale? What do you mean?
oh, man. So Wikipedia makes it very clear the biggest victims, numbers-wise, are farm animals.
Oh, right. Yeah, factory farms and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where it gets a little tricky for me personally.
How so?
I mean, I get that factory farming, like, it's got problems, but
Yeah.
isn't it kind of necessary? I mean, we got to feed people.
Well, yeah, that's the argument, right?
Yeah.
But, I think it's important to look at the specifics. Wikipedia gets into some pretty gnarly stuff.
Like what?
Things like, battery cages for chickens, where they're crammed in so tight they can barely move.
Oh, yeah. I've seen pictures of that. It's awful.
Or like piglet castration without anesthesia.
Whoa, seriously?
That's to prevent aggression and something called boar taint in the meat.
Okay, I gotta admit, that's pretty rough. I mean, I eat meat, but come on.
Right. And that's the thing. Even if you're not, like, vegetarian or vegan, knowing about this stuff, it changes how you shop.
Like what kind of eggs you buy.
Exactly.
Well,
or where you get your meat. It makes
yeah.
you think about, like, free range and, higher welfare standards.
So knowledge is power, even when it's not so pleasant.
Absolutely. The more we know, the more we can push for change.
Speaking of knowing, it's not just about food, right? Like, what other areas are kind of like hotbeds for animal crimes?
Well, Wikipedia talks a lot about the fur industry.
Yeah, no surprise there.
I mean, think about it. The way they confine those animals, like minks, right? They're solitary in nature in either space.
And they're kept in these tiny cages. I've seen those undercover videos. It's heartbreaking.
It is. And then the killing methods, like gassing them or electrocution, it's all about profit,
Yeah, where's the respect for life?
Right. And it's not just about, like, one animal suffering. It's about, like, what kind of society are we? What standards do we set for how we treat any living thing?
Okay, big picture stuff. I like it.
It's important.
So we've got factory farms, we've got the fur industry. What else?
Well, think entertainment, circuses, Bullfighting,
Oh
dogfighting.
yeah, those are rough.
Right. Animals are basically exploited for, like, profit or entertainment.
Yeah,
And Wikipedia, it actually has this whole breakdown of global laws about this stuff.
really? Like around the world.
Yeah. Some countries have total bans, others, it's this ongoing debate.
It's amazing how different it is everywhere, right? Like bullfighting. Here it's like barbarians, but in Spain it's tradition.
That's a really good point. It all depends on your culture, your background, what you're used to.
So what's an animal crime here might not be one somewhere else.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about context. And that's what makes this whole topic so much more complicated than you might think.
Right. We're just scratching the surface here. There's like layers and layers to unpack.
Totally. And that's what makes it so fascinating.
All right. So we're back and ready to dig even deeper into this animal crimes thing.
Yeah, we were just talking about how culture plays a role, right?
Totally. Like what's considered cruel in one place might be totally normal somewhere else.
Right. And it's tricky. Like, Wikipedia talks about this thing in Thailand called the training crush. It's how they train elephants.
Okay.
Training crush. That sounds intense. Yeah, it's basically about breaking the elephant spirit to make it, more obedient.
Wait, breaking their spirit. Like how?
Well, it involves, like, sleep deprivation,
Hmm?
making them go hungry and thirsty for a long time.
That's harsh.
Yeah. And sometimes even physical abuse, like they'll drive nails into their ears and feet.
No way. Seriously.
Yeah, it's all about forcing the elephant into submission through, like, sheer exhaustion and pain.
That's just awful. What, to get them to perform in circuses or something?
Often, yeah.
Yeah.
But also for logging, tourism, stuff like that. It's a deeply rooted practice in their culture and economy.
Yeah, so that makes it hard to like judge, right? It's their tradition.
Exactly. It's that constant tension between respecting cultural differences
Hmm.
and, advocating for the well-being of the animal.
Right, right. It's a tough one. And it's not just elephants, I bet.
Nope. Wikipedia also mentions animal sacrifices in some religions, like Santeria was one they mentioned.
Oh, wow. See, that kind of stuff always throws me for a loop. It's just so different from what I'm used to.
Yeah. And then there's, like, really old practices. They talked about something called tag ham in Scotland.
Tag Aaron, what's that?
Apparently they used animals to summon devils or something.
Okay, now that's getting a little too spooky for me.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Maybe we can stick with the more relatable stuff, like food.
Oh, sure, yeah. Food ethics is a whole other can of worms.
No kidding. Even simple food choices can hide some pretty cruel practices.
Exactly. Wikipedia mentioned this thing where they used to blind birds before cooking them.
Blinded. Wait, what kind of bird?
Like buntings, those little songbirds.
I mean, that just sounds... Why?
There are a few theories. Some say it, like, enhanced the flavor of the meat or something.
Seriously?
Yeah, or that it made them easier to fatten up because it couldn't see to escape.
That's messed up. Come on, people.
It's a reminder that our ideas of, like, normal food practices have changed a lot over time.
Yeah, good thing no one's blinding birds for dinner anymore, I guess.
Right. But we still have things that some people consider cruel, like boiling lobsters alive.
Ugh. Yeah, that one always gets me. Do lobsters even feel pain the same way we do?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Like, how do we measure animal sentience? Lobsters, fish, even insects.
It's a lot to think about. I mean, if those animals in factory farms are feeling even a fraction of the pain and fear we would in those situations, it's just...
Okay.
It all comes back to that philosophical question of, like, what are our obligations to other species?
Exactly.
It's not just about what we do to animals, but also how our societal rules affect them. Think about those no pet policies in some apartment buildings.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Wikipedia actually mentioned that. They say it's a big reason why people end up abandoning their pets,
Hmm.
which, by the way, is often a crime itself.
That makes sense. It's a tough choice. Your home or your pet.
Right, and then those abandoned animals end up in overcrowded shelters or become feral,
Hmm.
facing a whole bunch of new dangers. It's like a ripple effect.
The chain reaction of bad stuff, just because of a simple rule, it shows how much our actions impact animals, even indirectly.
Definitely. Everything's connected.
Speaking of connections, I thought it was pretty wild how Wikipedia brought up that story about the American Humane Association.
Oh, yeah, how they got started because of a horse.
Yeah, in that old Western movie. They forced it off a cliff or something, and that's what sparked the whole movement.
Crazy, right? I mean, who would have thought Hollywood would be the birthplace of animal welfare advocacy?
Makes you wonder what other messed up stuff is going on behind the scenes in all kinds of industries.
Right. There's probably a lot we don't even know about.
We've covered a lot, but it feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
Totally agree. They're still hunting and poaching, for instance.
Oh, yeah, trophy hunting and the ivory trade are huge issues globally.
And then there's the whole debate around animal testing. When is it justified? When are there better alternatives?
Ugh, that's a tough one. I know some animal testing is needed for, medical research, but it's hard to think about those animals going through painful procedures.
Yeah, and especially when there might be alternatives, like computer models or using human cells.
It's all about weighing the benefits against the ethics of it all, which is what makes this deep dive so interesting. It makes you really think about our relationship with animals.
Totally. And speaking of thinking critically, it's a good reminder that while Wikipedia is a great resource, it's not always perfectly accurate. We always got to double check stuff and look at multiple sources.
Good point. Wikipedia is a good start, but it's just the beginning. We got to be critical thinkers about this stuff.
Exactly.
So with that in mind, I think we're ready to move on to our final thoughts.
Sounds good. Let's wrap this up.
Okay, deep divers, time to come up for air. We've been through a lot with these animal crimes.
Yeah, it's heavier than I thought it would be, honestly.
Yeah, right? It's
Yeah.
way more complex than just be nice to animals, you
Yeah.
know?
Totally. And it's everywhere, too.
So as we wrap this up, what are the big takeaways? What should our listeners really remember?
Well, first, just how widespread animal crimes are. It's not just abuse, it's neglect, exploitation, all sorts of things.
Yeah, and it's easy to forget about that when you're, just going about your day.
Exactly. And then the second thing I think is how much we as humans are involved. It's our psychology, our economic systems, our cultures
Mm.
that drive a lot of this.
It's not just some bad people out there. It's systemic.
Exactly. And the third thing, this whole legal and ethical side of it, it's always changing,
Yeah, what was okay, years ago might be totally unacceptable now.
right? And hopefully that trend continues where we keep pushing for better treatment of animals.
It makes you wonder what we're doing now. That'll seem crazy in the future, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
Makes you think.
Speaking of thinking, remember that bit from Wikipedia about unnecessary scientific experiments?
Yeah, it's where is the line? What suffering is worth it,
Ugh. Yeah. And who gets to make that call?
No easy answers there.
Definitely not. So where do we go from here? I mean, we've given people a lot to think about, but what can they do?
Well, we've got all our sources linked in the show notes, so definitely check those out.
Yeah, good place to start.
And there are tons of organizations working on this stuff. We'll link to some of those too.
Yeah, people can donate, volunteer, or just spread the word. Every little bit helps.
For sure. It all comes back to that, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
The more we understand this stuff, the better choices we can make.
Couldn't said it better myself. Well, folks, that's our deep dive into animal crimes. Be kind to animals, be kind to each other, and until next time, happy diving.